Hello and thanks for tuning in to Undercurrent, WA's only current affairs show made right here in Perth, about Perth, by Perth people. It's great to have you with us. We already use some varieties of genetically modified cotton and canola, but what about GM wheat? WA accounts for over 40% of the country's wheat exports already. Would GM wheat help WA or hurt farmers? Anne-Marie Leonard spoke with Julie Newman, spokesperson from the Network of Concerned Farmers, and the Shadow Minister for Agriculture, Mick Murray, to find out what they think the effect of GM wheat would be in WA.
In Western Australia, our farmers pay a tax levy which goes into research and development. At the moment, some of that research is going into GM wheat, which our government doesn't support. So why is this happening in Western Australia?
Wheat is our main export product. We exported last year $2.7 billion worth of wheat. It's our major agricultural product. So it's wise to protect that.
No one in the world wants GM wheat. I think the taxpayer has a right to know why this is being pushed. It's very interesting to see that Colin Barnett, the Premier, said no to GM wheat, yet the Minister for Agriculture is still saying yes.
If one person grows GM wheat commercially, every other farmer will be affected. The market perception will be that we are GM unless we prove it's not, but that process is too difficult and too expensive. So basically it's industry sabotage. We will lose all of our market overnight because no market in the world wants it.
Once GM is grown, it's very difficult to control. You can't contain it on your property. Steve Marsh, of course, is a perfect example of what can go terribly wrong. Here's a man whose property was declared GM-free. He's an organic grower. And what's happened is that the neighboring farm has grown canola, GM canola, and he's found GM canola on his property. Consequently, he can't sell it to his buyer.
The seed companies walked away and the government's walked that way, and you've left the two people in the middle. So the grain grower thought he had Monsanto's support, and then that disappeared.
Monsanto has a 19.9% stake in Intergrain. Intergrain is the government-owned seed breeding company. About a year ago, for some reason, the Agriculture Minister sold 19.9% of it to Monsanto. Monsanto is keen to develop GM wheat varieties. No one else around the world is doing that. The only reason that Western Australia is investing in it is because they own part of our seed breeding company.
When the Minister said yes to GM, they got $10.5 million from Monsanto, a big injection of funds. So now Monsanto owns almost 20% of our plant breeding institutes. But us farmers are paying for the research that's given to Monsanto so they can charge us more than the benefit gained.
We need to spend money in developing techniques to grow in soils which are depleted due to climate change. And salinity is a big issue in Western Australia. That's really where you could put $9 million that they're currently investing into developing GM wheat varieties.
What they can do is just add one gene to every non-GM variety, and the GM company, the owner of the patent, can tell the farmer how to grow it, who to deliver it to, and who to sell it to. This is about how a corporate company can lock all the seeds into their single supply chain and virtually own the food supply globally. You own the food, you own the people, and it has been a long-term aim stated by Monsanto, and the strategy was prepared by Arthur Andersen Consulting.
Colin Barnett was adamant in the Parliament that no to GM wheat. I think it's very wise.
The truth is that Colin Barnett has drawn the line here, and he has said that we will stop at GM cotton and GM canola. Colin Barnett has said we will not grow GM wheat. That's wise. He obviously knows what's going on around the world, because nobody is growing GM wheat. There's no market for it. People won't eat it. People won't buy it. So the fact that we're investing precious research dollars into developing it is really criminal, and it really only serves the interests of Monsanto.
Next up, Nick Hayes catches up with Steve Harris, Managing Director of the Brand Agency and President of the Fremantle Football Club.
Steve, thanks for joining us. Are you more recognised as the MD for brand agency or as the president of the Fremantle Football Club?
I think it's a combination. It depends where you go. Certainly I've only been in the role at Fremantle for 12 months, so I imagine in business circles it's better known for the ad agency than the footy club.
It was an outstanding year for the Fremantle Football Club last year. What can fans expect this year?
Well, I'm pleased you think it's outstanding. We were pleased with the year, but we didn't think it was outstanding. We've got a long-term plan, and what 2010 showed us is that our plan's on track. You've probably heard we don't make predictions. We don't come out and say where we're going to finish. That's part of an internal policy. We do, however, expect to improve, and our theme for this year is about improvement, improving as individuals and improving as a team.
Improvement, is that heading towards, and I know that you're going to give me the standard response from the Fremantle Football Club, is whether we can get to ourselves to a premiership, but is that the goal? Is that where we're ultimately going?
Look, we make no bones about the fact that we have a goal, and the goal is to play exciting football, to play finals consistently, to play in grand finals, and ultimately to win a premiership. When that's going to happen, no one knows. The first step is to play finals consistently. If you look at most of the grand final winning teams, they've been consistent finals players, and we haven't been consistent final players ever.
What are your thoughts on a proposal to move away from the West Australian Football Commission administration and give both the Eagles and the Dockers a right to compete as separate entities?
There has been discussions, and we're having ongoing discussions with the Football Commission and the AFL. One of the key principles that the Fremantle Dockers would always strive is that there's no disadvantage for football in Western Australia. So there's been talk about money moving from WA to Victoria. That wouldn't happen, and certainly Fremantle feels an obligation to use the funds that it gives to the WA Football Commission to keep developing football in the state. The rent we pay on the stadium, the money we give to the Footy Commission, they use to get young kids up and about, enjoying sport and lifestyle and comradeship, playing football, which is good.
With your advertising hat on, what is the state of the industry?
Look, the ad industry is very, very interesting at the moment. We're doing well, business is good. The industry as a whole faces a number of challenges. There are a large number of big branded accounts that used to exist in Western Australia that no longer exist. So Bankwest moves east, WA Tourism moves east, Home Building Society buys State West Credit, Bank of Queensland buys Home Building Society, two big advertisers leave the market. The Swan Brewery no longer exists, Gens West no longer exists, SGIO no longer exists, it's done out of the East Coast. So the market is contracting, and the ad industry is contracting in Western Australia as a result. That presents opportunities. We've never been busier. We see there's opportunities for companies who are aggressive, agile, and have scale to compete.
New media is very popular in the emergence of Facebook, Twitter and YouTube. Where does that play a role in advertising?
It's probably the most significant trend in advertising since, say, the invention of the television. And there are ad agencies around when the TV came out who said, no, we're going to concentrate on press and magazine ads. They no longer exist. So if you look at our own business, 13, 14 months ago we had one person working in digital, now we have 14. So 1 person in 5 in our agency in the last 12 months is working in digital. If you're not in digital as an ad agency, you probably won't exist in another 2 years' time.
Steve, I'm going to try again. Where is Fremantle going to end up this year?
Absolutely no comment on that.
Steve, thanks for joining us.
Great, thank you.
Historically, paddle boat steamers used steam, which of course was provided by burning coal. But in these modern days, it's all about petroleum products, oil and gas. Now, WA is the leading world provider of natural gas. But were you aware that we in WA pay twice the amount for our natural gas than any other state in Australia? Rachel O'Rourke spoke with State Opposition Leader Eric Ripper and the Minister for Energy Peter Collier to find out why we don't just pay double in WA, we pay more than anywhere else in the world.
Western Australia is currently the largest exporter of natural gas in the world and the second largest producer just after Qatar. So, if we are world leaders in exportation and production of natural gas, why are our households paying more than any other country in the world and twice as much as any other state?
According to the Dom Gas Alliance, WA customers are facing an extra $2 billion in gas bills a year. Minister for Energy Peter Collier says a large amount of the price hikes are due to the matter of offshore mining.
One of the reasons that we have the large cost impulse with regard to LNG and gas, natural gas in particular, is the fact that most of our gas reserves are found offshore and deep sea. You have very prohibitive infrastructure costs, and then of course you've got to transport it, you've got to process it and transport it down a single pipeline to the southwest.
We asked the Leader of the Opposition of his opinion on the natural gas price in WA and the government role to protect households from corporate greed.
Well, this is a real puzzle to the people of Western Australia. Why are they paying so much for gas when we've got the largest gas resources of any state in the country? It's partly to do with the fact that we do have an LNG industry, so there is international competition for our gas, and we end up paying some of the highest international prices. It is a free market, but there are nevertheless things that the government can do. For example, make the market more open and transparent, make sure that companies are genuinely required to reserve 15% of their gas for domestic purposes, make sure that in conjunction with the Commonwealth, companies can't hold on to gas which they're refusing to develop, even though it could be made available commercially for domestic purposes. And finally, I think the government should also be encouraging the development of unconventional gas reserves closer to Perth so that there's more competition in the market.
We know that the government has the rights to regulate the domestic natural gas prices, therefore have the duty to protect WA consumers.
Look, in terms of cost, in terms of provision of gas supplies in Western Australia, the fact that we do have most of our gas supplies are offshore and in deep seas is prohibitively expensive. That brings with it an enormous cost. In addition to that, we are relying very, very heavily on the transport of that cost from the northwest of the south to the southwest of the state, which again adds added infrastructure pressures on the final cost.
The government reasoning of the price of natural gas charged in WA for domestic use contradicts market reality because the world prices of natural gas are set by the stock exchange just like other commodities. If our production cost prohibits the prices the Minister states, it begs us to ask how is the industry surviving in the world's most competitive energy market and making tens of billions of dollars in profit per year, while West Australians still pay the most expensive prices in the world. The Greens are known for their strong views on consumer protection and the government's energy policies. Greens MP Lynn McLaren confirms this.
I didn't realise that we produce so much gas because of the price of gas is very expensive, and you would have thought that it would be cheaper. The problem in Western Australia, and if you saw that energy report that Peter Collier, the Minister for Energy, just recently put out, is that they're just very narrow-minded. We can respond to high gas prices by trying to manipulate the price, which is a world market price, or we could get clever and realize that our energy needs can be met by other sources, creating a competition. We need to create that competition for the delivery of energy amongst alternative sources.
We approached Alinta Gas to comment on the components that make up the natural gas prices and why they believe we pay double the amount that other states do. They responded by saying they did not have someone available for an interview but provided this written statement.
Now, what needs to be remembered is the gas contracts are confidential. They are between Alinta and the supplier and the buyer, and that's never been any different. Now, as far as transparency with prices are concerned, we really do lead the field in that area. The Office of Energy, of which is under my jurisdiction, regularly produces reviews in terms of gas tariffs. What actually happens with regard to the determination of prices of gas is that it is determined through a very thorough process through the Office of Energy and Axel Tasman, and they come up with the recommendation to government. Ultimately, it's up to the government to determine whether or not we accept those recommendations.
We must ask ourselves though, if the supply price of natural gas is confidential between the buyer and the supplier, how can anyone, in particular the government, really make a responsible decision on prices and regulating them to protect Western Australian households?
Don't go anywhere. We'll have more Undercurrent straight after the break.
I'll show you a dish. Very simple.
Of Australia.
Hate the way you dance. Do a little intro. Let's go there.
the sexy part of the evening.
Hi, I'm Mara Pomana, and we are behind the scenes of Friday Night Live, your only live entertainment television show in Perth. Now let's go and have a look what's going on. Here we have Jessie. Hello, Jessie. Our co-host.
Hi there, how are you?
Good, how are you? How are you going?
I'm very well. I'm just prepping for the show. As you can see, I've got my little sheet here is the rundown, and that's what's on the show. That's what's coming up.
How do you prepare for Friday Night Live?
I do some Zen meditating. So when you close your eyes and you build a little house in your mind, and you go into that little house, and you know, have a couple of drinks in the house and get a bit of a party on.
You've done every season. You obviously love it.
Yeah, it's good fun. It's good fun.
With Paloma. Paloma, how are you today?
I'm very good. How are you going?
And what do you do on this show?
I am the fashion reporter, so I do a little roving segment where I pick people off the streets. Sometimes we're successful, a lot of the time we aren't really. And then occasionally I bring people onto the couch to have a chat as well.
Do you find people that are really, really bad dressed or sort of in between?
We don't normally pick the bad dressed people because it could look like we're making fun of them.
Steph here, the lovely Steph, the co-host of this show. How are you tonight?
I'm very well. How are you, Mara?
Good. How excited? Do you get nervous before the show because it is live?
I do get a little bit nervous. Everyone working for us is very well organised though, so that makes it a lot better, but I do still get very nervous.
How long does it take you to prepare for Friday Night Live?
Well, for me, I've got an easy job. I just get to rock up and sit there and everyone tells me what I'm supposed to say, so it's not too bad for me. Everyone else puts in the effort and I just ride on their coattails, so that's what I do.
Now we're going to meet the men in charge, the men responsible. This is Simon, our lovely director. Simon!
Hello.
Hi, busy?
Oh yeah, it's always busy before we do a show.
How do you get nervous before it?
No, not really. Maybe just for the host, you know. I'm behind here, you know, away from the camera. I don't have to worry about being nervous.
I came in here last week and it was pretty stressful. Camera 1, camera 2, change to the camera 3.
No, I mean there's a lot going on, but it's all very coordinated. You know, there's nothing. You know, we work with sort of a professional crew here, and they all know their role. We've got a great team, like with sort of Sam and Lauren doing graphics and Louis. You know, everyone's sort of just really good at the job that they do, and together we produce this show.
Okay, and we are here with another very, very important man, Ryan.
Hi Mara, how are you?
Good. Tell us, what do you do on this show?
On this show, I've been responsible for doing the set design, and every week I look after the audio as well, and we're slowly improving that as we go on and on.
Well, everything's set up for tonight, everything's working well?
Yes, it's all good. We've just done our band check before, and the sound sounds great. 2 acoustic guitars, so it's first time in here. Yeah, we're looking forward to it. We've got about an hour to go, and rehearsal in about 5 minutes.
You've just had a sneak peek behind the scenes of Friday Night Live, your only live entertainment television show in Perth. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
We're here today in Perth City, asking the public about the Queen's importance and her arrival in October. So the Queen's arriving in October. What do you think about her? What are your views about her?
Well, I don't think much about it, because all those meetings they have every 4 years or something in whichever country, costing the taxpayers a lot of money and achieve nothing.
What I think of Her Majesty the Queen, apart from the family, which need a lot to be desired, she would be, in my view, one of the most respected people in the world.
What do you think much of her at all, actually? She's not much to do with us.
What she does for charity and everything's all good. I don't have anything against her, so...
I think it's great she's coming here. Yeah. It's, her presence is sought after, I think, and it's going to really put Australia on the map again.
So how important do you think she is to Australia?
She's always had an importance to Australia, I guess, because Australia has always seen
its kind of relationships with other countries tied up with the Queen and tied up with the head of the Commonwealth and everything. But today I think Australia has asserted kind of more independence than really any other countries in the Commonwealth, and yeah, I guess since 1952 we've really been our own independent nation, you know.
I don't really think the Queen has much of a say as much as the Americans do anymore. Like, I reckon Australia follows more what the Americans do now than what the English people do, so yeah.
Dreadfully important, I suppose, but I suppose still an icon.
Just as a role model in the way she's lived her life. Probably not politically or anything like that, no, not that important, but as a figurehead, I think she's a lovely lady.
Well, she is. She's Constitution says she's our head of state, so she's important.
So what are your thoughts about the monarchy?
Monarchy, I like the little parades outside Buckingham Palace. They're nice to watch. Yeah, that's what I think.
I don't know. I think Australia's probably gearing towards being a republic.
And I think it probably will.
Do you think she should make more decisions, rather than the politicians?
I've got no clue about what she does, really. So I couldn't really say that.
Certainly not.
And why is that?
Well, she's not really qualified. She's sort of born into the job. She hasn't, she wasn't elected, so therefore just a symbolic role is appropriate.
Even though she's a woman, she's a good woman.
Thank you.
We all know smoking isn't the healthiest habit. A lot of money is spent to put people off smoking, including graphic images on cigarette packaging. Now, new legislation is set to force cigarette manufacturers to use plain packaging, and they'll still be locked away from customers' eyes. But are all these rules and restrictions actually necessary? Do they work? And will they stop people taking up smoking, or will it just hurt retailers?
I congratulate the government on their proposal to introduce plain packaging for cigarettes. We have, and it's part of a comprehensive package.
It's a really important proposal. It comes into effect July next year. So at the moment, tobacco companies can't advertise their product at all in Australia other than on the packs themselves. So a lot of research has gone into how packs should be designed, what sorts of colours they should use. It really is a marketing tool that the tobacco companies use to promote their product and also to recruit new smokers as well. So regulating how they can do that on cigarette packages is obviously a very important initiative, and we welcome it.
We know from research that young children or young people are attracted by the glossy packaging on the cigarettes, which is why the tobacco companies are very reluctant to see this go, because this is how they get their new smokers, with the fancy packaging. So this is a great move. It will hopefully discourage people from taking up smoking, but again, it will also maybe those people who currently smoke, who want to stop smoking, it may assist those people as well. We have to think, whose interests is it in allowing tobacco to be promoted? And that's what these glossy packages do. They promote cigarettes as something, they attract particularly younger people into purchasing them and taking up smoking. We do not want young people to take up smoking. Once people have taken up smoking, it's very hard to give up smoking. So that again goes back to, if we can stop people from taking up as a first instance, then we can prevent those long-term costs. That 31 billion nationally, 2.4 billion. Look at all the areas where that money could be spent.
Every year, over $30 billion is spent on the hospitalisation and care of tobacco-related diseases. But with a new proposal from the government to have plain cigarette packaging, will the number of smokers drop down? And how will this affect tobacco retailers around WA?
I can't see how this is going to make any impact on the way that people sell cigarettes. We know, we've spoken to people ourselves who work in settings where they sell cigarettes, and they can't see it being a problem. So, what I would say is smoking kills 15,000 Australians every year, and anything we can do to reduce the people that are affected by smoking is a fantastic thing.
It seems
quite unusual. They've said that they're doing it for all tobacco products, and they're not actually differentiating between cigars and cigarettes. In most countries around the world, they make that differentiation. So, for example, in the United States, you obviously haven't been able to advertise cigarettes for many, many years. Cigars, you still can, premium hand-rolled cigars, because they actually understand the difference between that. But this government is looking at doing plain packaging for all tobacco products right across the board without looking at the individual products themselves.
So what we know is that strong policy and legislative changes do have an impact on people smoking, particularly price, restrictions on where people can and can't smoke. So those sorts of changes, we have seen a big drop in prevalence of smoking because of those types of changes, and I imagine that this type of change is going to see similar reductions in smoking.
Oh yeah, look, a lot of these cigar boxes are literally works of art, beautifully lithographed boxes. They've been the same way for a couple of hundred years, and these come from countries such as Cuba, Dominican Republic, Honduras, Nicaragua, and those sort of places. I can't see Fidel Castro changing the packaging on his Cuban cigar boxes just because Julia Gillard thinks it's a good idea. It's not unusual. This government is continually putting things in place, barriers for small business to make it harder and harder to make a dollar, even if it is a legal product. And this probably just appears to be another one.
Well, that's all we've got time for tonight. If you'd like to get involved with us here at Undercurrent, or you've got a story that you think we should cover, please get in touch with us here at WTV. This is your show about your city, and we'd love to hear from you. Your feedback really is a very important part of how we put the program together. Why not visit our website at wtvperth.com.au and join in our discussion forums, or follow us on Twitter at Undercurrent TV. We'll be back again next time, and we'd love to have your company then. I'm Jason Jordan. Good night.